this is step 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. What are defects of character, and how are we going to be ready for God to remove them? These are kind of tricky steps a little bit.
They are. They seem like you can blow right past them, right? When you're kind of reading all the steps. They tend to be in groups, and 6 and 7 you kind of read as a thing, but it's not so simple.
People get a little mystified at these steps, and I've had... I've actually heard people say this. Okay, this is how you work 6 and 7. Well, you go do your 5th step, and then you go like sit under a tree somewhere, and you do 6 and 7, and then you're done.
Oh no!
And I see it more as a lifelong process.
I think 6 and 7. I think it comes into play over and over again every day.
It does,
and especially if you get to the root of what it really means. To me, it's sort of 6 and 7. It's almost like it's maybe the word paradox isn't a good word, but it seems weird because we have done so much work in 4 and 5 on inventory.
Yes.
And doing the detective work and looking at that inventory. But then you say, well, once I've done all that work, I'm supposed to like ask God to just remove this now. And it seems like it reminded me of the quote. It's attributed to St. Augustine, right? You know that quote? That pray as though everything depended on God, but work as though everything depended on you. And that's exactly what 6 and 7 are to me.
It's doing the work that will allow God to change you.
Yeah, because if you don't do, because it's not we tend to treat God as this magic, as a drugstore Jesus. That's what I always say, where you just want to have a God pill and everything's going to be okay.
Santa
and it's
Claus.
the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But
we go on this fact-finding mission in 4.
Yes.
And we're not really told what to do with it until step 5, and then what we do with it is we tell someone.
Give it away.
We admit it. We give it away. We give it to God. We give it to another person. Now, what are we going to do in our life with the information that we have learned? Because we need to have uncovered these patterns in our life that have not served us or others, that have kept us from really living up to our potential or living out our values. And now we need to be willing to change those patterns as we live our daily lives. And that's a hard thing to do because some of these patterns run really deep.
Well, and I think as we have lived our lives, I think everybody has the same kind of basic needs, right?
Yes.
As people.
Yes.
But it's the way you deal with those that makes you fork off and do different things.
That's
and
right.
some of us, whatever it is, learned behavior, the intuitiveness that we have, or what we didn't learn, or what we were modeled by people in our lives, we try to get those needs met, right? So let's just take what 6 does is lets you look at some of those things in your life that you react to, and this is it for me, is that, like, let's say we all need love, right?
That's right.
Well, you may look at your list of things that you came up with in 4 and say, okay, how did I try to go about getting love? Did I use other people? Did I hurt people? Did I manipulate? Did I do this? And you go, oh, shoot. That's how I felt love. And you have these realizations, right? So it's almost like you have to take all of those things and you list them out, because you did in 4. You said, what did I do to act on this? Like, how did I react to this thing that I found out? And what effect did it have on other people and me around me? And then, okay, what feelings do I associate with this? And now you know what you have to change.
When I wrote my 4th step, I didn't realize how many of my decisions and how I interacted with other people were based on fear. I didn't realize how much I really feared what other people thought of me. And the fear that cropped up over and over again was this fear that other people would think I was somehow weak or incompetent or out of control in some way. And so then I would put up a front to make people think that I was, in control, tough, whatever it was.
Yeah,
exactly. Having that knowledge, it's like, well, what am I going to do with it? Because this is not going to be just snapping your fingers and it's going to be gone.
Exactly.
But I need to be entirely ready to let God remove that. But I have to be ready for what it's going to take to let God do it.
Yeah, and you can't be ready unless you know it. So you have unless
Well, that's
you,
right. That's what I'm saying.
You realize that through your step 4 and 5.
Uh-huh.
And now you're like, oh man, well, shoot, that is bad.
Right.
I need to get rid of this thing. Instead, my natural thing is to go, well, I'm the worst, because it's like once I figure that self out about me, I go, well, shoot, I better not let that come up again. I better figure out some kind of way to hide that.
That's right.
Because that's what we naturally do. We go, well, I'm going to push that down and never come to that again, you know.
And
I'll show them. I won't get in a scary situation anymore.
Exactly. And unfortunately, because if something has happened 100 times, it's going to happen 101 times.
1,000 more times.
And so when a similar kind of situation arises that gives me that feeling of fear, insecurity, I have got to be ready to react in a different way. And that takes a lot of courage sometimes to deal with something as it arises rather than just pretending or pushing it down or acting out of fear.
And it's it's almost like that's another terrifying situation.
It is.
Is when it happens. That's where the faith comes in, step 7.
That's right.
And asking for some help to do it, because we can't do it. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm a quote guy. I write them on my phone all the time. I like them all the time. But it's like when you're doing step 6 and you've done 4 and 5, it's almost like those 3 should be grouped together as opposed to 6 and 7. But the best preparation for good work tomorrow is to do good work today.
Yes.
And if you've done your 4 and 5 the correct way, then I think mentally you're going to be ready for. I keep harping on this. That's why I think a good counselor is so important.
It is important.
And a sponsor that really knows the step work, or somebody that can come alongside you and talk with you through it, because I can't imagine wandering through this myself.
You can't
trying to find these answers.
You can't.
You know, YouTube's great, but if you don't interact and you're not at meetings the same time all this is happening, it's almost like there's a lot of stuff that happens by you learning and taking it in and writing it down, but there's just as much that happens by osmosis.
That's right.
That sort of just seeps in from all of what you're hearing, people at meetings, counselors. Should I say spiritual thing that happens that has to happen. You have to let it happen. And most people are just all closed off, white knuckling,
This process is mercifully gradual to where by the time you get to step 6, you have kind of exposed yourself in greater degrees of this stuff.
That's
you don't
exactly
have to do
right.
it all at once.
Yeah.
Day 1, you don't have to go and tell your life story to someone.
Well, it'd be horrible.
It would. And so by the time we're here, there's been so much growth if you've done it thoroughly with courage and conviction. There's been so much growth. The spiritual principles of this are commitment and perseverance.
That's good.
I learned. We commit to change, and then we persevere through the 100 times we're going to fail at it again.
Yep.
We keep getting up. We keep talking about it. That's why this is such a process. This is a house cleaning thing. We're really recreating ourselves.
You are. It's a renovation. Yeah.
And this is not something that can be done by myself.
No, not at all. And see, it's so amazing how it all comes together. That's why I say it's very biblical, because
it's very biblical.
When you get to the end of it, you're wrung out, you're reinvented,
yes.
You look different, you act different, and guess what? Only then can you help somebody.
That's right.
Because I don't care what they tell you, you go, yeah, I pretty much did the same thing, And then you can come and maybe save them. That's why the community's so important.
The defects of character can be things that existed before we ever used, and they can be skills that we picked up in our addiction.
Oh, for sure.
The major defect that I picked up in my addiction was secretiveness.
Yeah.
I learned how to be secretive.
Yep.
And so now every day I'm ready for God to remove that pattern of secretiveness. Well, how do I do that? How do I let God do that? Well, I have to be honest.
Yep.
And I have to be honest in every situation that comes up when my instinct is to not be honest.
Right.
And that's what I need help with.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
This is a really important step. The steps are there for a reason and order.
Yep.
It's something really important to think about. on your daily walk.
Yeah, let us know about your step 6, or what do you think about what we said about step 6 in the comments below. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.